Mommy, Daddy, we know you two separated a long time ago, but can Storm and I still make a wish? Thunder began. Thunder and Storm were sitting side by side in the hospital, both of their faces serious, as if they had agreed on something only the two of them knew. Of course, sweetheart. What's your wish? What do you and your dad want from us? Claire asked. Can our family be whole again? Thunder answered, making both of his parents freeze. Can we still be happy again and be a complete family? Thunder continued. So Storm and I won't ever be separated again. We really can't stand being far from each other anymore. Yes, Mommy and Daddy, Storm added. I want us all to be together again. I don't want to be far away from Thunder anymore. I want us to always be together. Is there still a chance for their family to be whole again? This is their story. Hello, it's Uncle Joel. Come along with me to the very end, and I promise you will be delighted, thrilled, and inspired by this amazing story. Enjoy. Storm whimpered softly when he felt the needle pierce his hand, but he kept on singing. Richard couldn't stop his own tears from falling as he listened to his 7-year-old son sing while the nurse injected one medication after another into his small arm and adjusted the IV drip. Singing was Storm's way of coping, his way to distract himself from the pain of every needle that went into his body. 7-year-old Storm Henderson had a terminal illness. At such a young age, he was fighting a battle that would be very hard to win. There wasn't a single day when he wasn't poked by all kinds of medicines and tests, just so his body could gain a little bit of strength. Every day was a trial for the poor child. There we go, very good, baby, the nurse said cheerfully once she finished injecting his medicines. I'll come back later for your next round. What song are you going to sing then, so you won't be scared again? I'll be, Storm answered between small sniffles. I'll be, huh? Is that your favorite song? Storm nodded slowly. It's my twin brother Thunder's, and my favorite. Is that so? Then later you sing it again so you won't be scared, okay? So you won't feel the pain too much. Okay, Storm answered with a small nod. The nurse looked at Richard and gave him a brief nod of goodbye. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country in New York, far from his twin, Thunder was doing the exact same thing Storm was doing, singing their favorite song over and over while he underwent different tests to check the condition of his heart. His current heart condition is stable, but there's a growing concern about the increasing size of the hole, the doctor told Claire after reviewing Thunder's chart. I strongly recommend that you find a heart donor for him as soon as possible. Claire nodded and thanked the doctor before walking over to her son. Mommy, is my heart better now? Can I go home to Storm? Thunder asked her. Claire bent down and smiled at him. Yes, sweetheart, the doctor said your heart is stable now, but we still need to find a heart donor for you. If that's the case, can I go home to Daddy? I won't faint anymore, right? Mommy, I really, really miss him and Storm. Yes, we're going home to them, Claire answered. Next week, we're flying back home to Los Angeles. Thunder's face lit up. Really, Mommy, I'm so excited. His eyes sparkled with joy. Yes, you'll finally be with your twin again, Claire said. The twins hadn't seen each other in months. Claire was the only one who constantly flew back to Los Angeles to visit and take care of her other child, Thunder's twin, Storm, who also had a serious illness, terminal cancer. Thunder couldn't travel long distances because he often fainted due to his heart condition. But now that they had permission from the doctor, Claire wanted to bring Thunder home. She knew how much the twins missed each other. Even though they often talked on calls, it was different when they were together in person. Storm, Storm, I'm here, I'm back. Thunder's tears instantly fell when he saw Storm sitting in a wheelchair, being pushed by their father, Richard Henderson. Storm was wearing a black beanie because his hair had all fallen out from his treatments. Thunder, Storm called happily. Thunder ran as fast as he could toward his twin, arms wide open. Claire cried quietly as she watched her children. She knew how much they had missed each other. Months had gone by without them seeing one another, and now seeing them together again filled her with joy. I missed you so much, Storm, Thunder said through tears as he hugged his twin tightly. We've been apart for so long. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Thunder, Storm replied, crying as well. I'm so happy we're together again. Thunder pulled back from the hug and looked at Storm's face. Forgive me for only coming back now. I did everything I could to get better faster, but the doctor still didn't allow me to travel back home. Storm smiled and reached out his small hand to wipe Thunder's tears. It's okay, Thunder. I understand. What matters is we're together again now. I'm happy we're together again too, Thunder replied. I'm not leaving your side anymore. I'll always be here, no matter what happens. That was Thunder's promise to his twin, and Storm smiled at him. I'm so happy you're back, son, Richard said tearfully as he lifted Thunder up. Thunder immediately wrapped his arms around his father's neck, crying, Daddy missed you so much, my boy. I'm so glad you're stronger now and back home with us, with your twin. While Claire and Thunder had been on the East Coast for treatment, Richard had flown out to visit them whenever he could. But nothing could compare to having both of their children together, with no one left behind when they visited. Thunder continued crying as he clung to his father, while Richard hugged and comforted him. Claire, on the other hand, kept kissing the top of Storm's head as she held his hand, which was clasped tightly with Thunder's. For a moment her eyes met Richard's, and she was the first to look away. Even though they had been separated for 5 years, they had remained civil for the sake of their children. Neither Claire nor Richard wanted their kids to suffer because of what had happened between them. From that day on, the twins were like magnets. They were inseparable. They even slept together, lying side by side in bed, wrapped in each other's arms, and their parents were more than happy to see them that way. Claire, go eat something. I brought food for you, Richard said one evening as he loosened his necktie, having just come from work. I'll watch the kids. Claire nodded. Have you eaten? Even though they were civil, this was the first time in a long while they'd had a conversation like this. Claire had to admit, it felt awkward. Still, she tried not to show it, especially since it seemed like she was the only one feeling that way. I'll eat later. I'm not that hungry yet, Richard said, eyes on their children as they played in Storm's hospital room. Then he turned back to her. You eat first. I know you haven't eaten all day. The kid's nanny told me you've been refusing food. Don't skip meals again, or you're the one who'll get sick. Our kids will be sad if that happens. Richard was right. Claire hadn't eaten anything since that morning. She had been too focused on watching over their children. They did have nannies, but Claire preferred to care for them herself. Richard felt the same way. Earlier, she hadn't even felt hungry. But now that Richard was here, she suddenly felt her stomach twisting. While she ate, she watched her husband and children playing. Richard might not have been a good husband to her, but he had always been a good father. He had never failed their children. Every free moment he had, he spent with them. Just like now, Claire knew he was exhausted from work, yet he was still playing with the twins. Richard worked tirelessly for their children. He was the CEO of a large company. His schedule was always packed, but he still made sure he had time for the twins so they would never feel that their father didn't have time for them. Even though he and Claire no longer had a romantic relationship and were simply co-parenting, Richard still took care of her in his own way. Whenever the four of them were together, they still looked like a happy, complete family. Mommy, Daddy, we know you two separated a long time ago, but can Storm and I still make a wish? Thunder began again one quiet afternoon. The twins were sitting side by side in the hospital room, their faces serious. It was obvious they had made a secret agreement. Of course, sweetheart. What's your wish? Claire asked gently. Can our family be whole again? Thunder asked. Richard fell silent. Can we go back to being a happy, complete family? Thunder continued. So Storm and I will never be separated again. We really can't stand being far from each other. Yes, Mommy, Daddy, Storm chimed in. I really want us all to be together again. I don't want to be far from Thunder anymore. I want us to always be together. Claire and Richard exchanged a look. Both of them were shocked by their children's request. Their eyes silently questioned each other. Richard gave a small nod, and Claire understood what he meant. She turned back to the twins and smiled slightly. Of course, you two will never be separated again. Does that mean you and Daddy are getting back together? Thunder asked. Claire walked closer to them. Yes, your dad also wants our family to be whole and happy again. Because of her words, the twins broke into wide smiles and even shouted, yes, before hugging each other tightly. Thank you so much, Mommy, Daddy, Thunder added. Storm and I are so excited that our family will be whole again. We want to be happy like other families. Claire was happy because her children were happy. She wanted nothing more than their joy. She was willing to do anything as long as it meant seeing them smile. Thank you for agreeing to what the kids wanted, Claire, Richard said later as they stood on the hospital rooftop getting some fresh air. The twins were asleep in their rooms under the care of their nannies. Claire had agreed to talk because Richard had asked if they could speak in private. I only agreed because I want our kids to be happy, Claire replied in a cool tone, staring into his eyes. I don't want them to spend their whole lives carrying pain. They're already suffering enough for what happened between us. I can't stand seeing them hurt whenever we're apart. Richard nodded slowly. I know you don't love me anymore, Claire. I know you're doing all of this for our children. Even so, I hope things can still be okay between us. I hope you can at least pretend to be happy with me in front of them. Don't worry, she said. I'll do that for our kids. Even if you don't say it, I know that aside from them, I don't have any other reason to get back together with you. After that, Claire left Richard alone on the rooftop. He took a deep breath and stared at the distant city lights. It had been 5 years since their separation, all because of one mistake Richard had made, or at least that's what Claire believed. She had caught him kissing her friend Sarah. That's all Claire thought she needed to see. At the time, the twins were only 3 years old. Claire, already carrying trauma from her own family's history, was furious. Even though it had only been a kiss and she didn't know how it had started, what she had seen was enough for her. Without giving Richard a chance to explain, she left. She filed for an annulment and took Thunder with her, leaving Storm with their father. Even though they were separated, the twins and their parents kept a bond across the distance. Thunder would often stay with Richard, and Storm often stayed with Claire, so both kids could feel loved by both parents. Unfortunately, when Storm was 5 years old, he was diagnosed with a brain tumor that was spreading quickly. Even after undergoing surgery, the tumor returned. Their only hope was a miracle, that the tumor would disappear on its own. It was heartbreaking for all of them. Their child was so young to be suffering from such a terrible illness. The pain they felt doubled when, at 6 years old, Thunder also started frequently passing out. Eventually, doctors discovered a hole in his heart. Claire didn't know what she had done to deserve seeing both her children suffer like this. They were so young, too young to be punished by life this way. For 2 years, they searched for a matching heart donor for Thunder, but they couldn't find one. Either donors backed out at the last minute, or none of the hearts matched his blood type. Both twins continued to struggle, and all Claire wanted was for them to be happy. Whatever they wished for, she would try to grant, even if that wish meant getting back together with the man who had hurt her deep. Are you sure you want to get back together with Richard? Claire's mother asked her gently. Claire looked up from the suitcase she was packing. Yes, Mom, I want our kids' wish to come true. Her mother took a deep breath, then walked over and sat on the bed beside her. Your kids are smart. If you explain that you don't want to get back with their father, they'll understand. That's better than letting them discover someday that you and Richard were only pretending and lying to them. My mind's made up, Mom, Claire said. I want to make our kids happy, and I know this is the way to do it. They're both suffering so much. I don't want to add to their pain and sadness. Her mother sighed again and took her hand, stopping her from packing Thunder's clothes. If that's really your decision, we'll support you. Just remember, your father and I are always here for you and your children, our grandkids. Thank you, Mom, Claire said, hugging her tightly. She was at her parents' house, where she and Thunder were staying. She was packing because the next day they would be moving back into Richard's house. The doctor had also allowed Storm to go home temporarily, and he was scheduled to be discharged the next day. Welcome home, Mommy and Thunder. That was Storm's cheerful greeting the moment Claire and Thunder stepped into Richard's house. Yay, we're going to live here again with Mommy, Thunder said excitedly, practically bouncing in place. The twins were overjoyed, and Claire couldn't help but smile as she carried one of the suitcases. She froze, however, when Richard reached for the handle at the same time. Their hands touched, making her eyes widen. Richard also seemed to pause at the contact. I'll carry this to your room, Richard said. Claire quickly pulled her hand away, feeling as if she'd been burned. Her heart began beating faster. She didn't notice the sadness that flickered in Richard's eyes because of what she did, but he still took the suitcase and carried it upstairs. We're sleeping in my room, Thunder, Storm said happily. I've got cool LED lights. We can see the whole universe. Really? Thunder grinned. Okay, I'll sleep in your room tonight. Then Mommy can read us a bedtime story. It would be even better if Mommy and Daddy slept beside us, right? Yeah. Richard and Claire exchanged a look again at what their children said, but Claire quickly glanced away. As they walked through the house, Claire's eyes wandered. This house, a big, beautiful mansion in Los Angeles, was where she and Richard had started their life together. Where they had fulfilled their dreams, where they had built their family. She had a deep connection to this place. For the longest time after the separation, she couldn't imagine ever coming back here after witnessing Richard's supposed betrayal. Yet here she was again. The memories poured back into her mind, the promises she and Richard had made to fill this house with happy moments. She realized she had missed all of it. She had missed living in this house. And if she were honest with herself, she had missed the man who had once promised to spend his life with her. What Claire didn't know was that while she was busy looking around, Richard was watching her, reading every emotion that crossed her face. "This will be your room," Richard said, making her jump a little when she saw where they were. It was their old master bedroom. "What? If this is my room, where will you stay?" she asked. "Ever since you left, no one has slept in this room," he answered quietly. "I moved into the old guest room. That's been my room." "Why?" The question slipped from Claire's lips before she could stop it. Richard's eyes were filled with emotion as he looked at her. "Because this room is filled with memories of us. When we were happy. Whenever I tried sleeping here, I remembered you. It hurt, knowing I couldn't bring those memories back." He took a deep breath. "But now that you're back, this room is yours again. I hope we can fill it with new happy memories." Claire didn't know if she was just being presumptuous or if Richard truly hadn't moved on. The way he looked at her, with the same admiration and love she remembered from before, made it hard not to believe he still loved her. And deep inside, a small part of her wanted to hope that she still had a place in his heart. "If you need anything, just ask the staff, or me," Richard said, lowering his head slightly. "I'll be in the guest room, my old room." He left her alone in their former bedroom, and Claire let out a long sigh. The next few days were some of the happiest in their children's lives. The twins were together every day. Claire didn't have a hard time adjusting because she had already been used to living in this house, and nothing much had changed since she left. "Mommy, Storm and I are sleeping together again tonight," Thunder said one evening, fresh out of the shower. Storm was already in bed, sitting up. "All right," Claire said. "I'll make some warm milk for you both before you sleep." Before leaving Storm's room, she towel-dried Thunder's hair. When she went down to the kitchen, she was surprised to see Richard there making coffee. He looked exhausted. "Where are the kids?" he asked. "In their room, still playing," Claire replied. "They want to sleep together tonight again." "I'm bringing them milk." "Aren't you going to check on them before they sleep?" she added as she moved to prepare the milk. "I will. I'll go with you," he said. She nodded and continued what she was doing. Ever since she and Thunder had moved back in, Claire hadn't seen a single day when Richard wasn't working. Sometimes he didn't finish until the early morning, yet he still always woke up early. As he'd said, he walked with her to the twins' room and carried the milk himself. The twins begged him to sleep beside them, but he still had work to finish. He did, however, promise that they would all go out together to the mall the next day. "Are the kids asleep?" he asked later that night, appearing outside the twins' room just as Claire stepped out. It was about 1 in the morning. She could tell he had just come from his home office. "They fell asleep a while ago. Did you just finish work?" Claire asked. "Not yet. I just came to check on them. I still have a lot to do, so I can spend the whole day with you at the mall tomorrow," he answered. She nodded and stepped aside so he could go in. She watched him walk over to their children, kiss their foreheads, and adjust their blankets, even though they were already fine. Then he straightened up and massaged his own shoulder, clearly sore and tired. "Did they wait for me before sleeping?" he asked. "Yes, but they understand you're busy." Richard nodded and looked at his kids one more time. "All right, I'll go back to work. You should get some rest too. I know you're tired from watching over them all day." He was still rubbing his shoulder and was about to walk past her when she spoke again. "You look tired," Claire said softly. "I'm fine. I'm used to working a lot. You go rest so you'll have energy tomorrow. Our kids are going to be a handful at the mall," he said with a tired smile. The exhaustion was obvious in his face and posture. "Do you want me to give you a massage?" she blurted out. Richard stared at her, surprised. "Huh? If I massage you, it might ease the pain in your back and shoulders so you can work better." "Do you want me to?" she asked. There was a strange spark in his eyes. "Aren't you tired from taking care of the kids?" "Not really. They weren't too hyper today. They watched cartoons most of the time." "If that's the case, could you really massage me?" "My back and shoulders are pretty sore," he admitted. "Of course," she answered without hesitation. Realizing how eager she sounded, she quickly added, "I mean, I used to do this for you all the time anyway." Richard smiled, almost like a shy teenager. "Yeah, you're the only one who has the right to do it," he said, meeting her eyes. "Come on, let's go to my room." She nodded, glanced one last time at their sleeping children, and followed him. Claire could barely breathe when Richard took off his shirt, and his toned chest and abs came into view, something she hadn't seen in years. Ever since their separation, this was the first time she'd seen his body again. He still looked good. Even without going to the gym regularly, he had always had a naturally strong build, and that hadn't changed. "Just relax. I'll take care of you," she said, her voice a bit shaky. "I will," Richard replied, looking back at her. "Just tell me if you want to stop. You sound a little hesitant." He chuckled softly when he noticed her quickly glancing at his abs. "What?" "No, I'm fine," Claire said, trying to sound calm. "Just relax your body," she repeated. She had been confident when she offered earlier, but now that they were alone in his room and he was half naked, she felt weak, like she might fold in on herself. Richard lay on his stomach on the bed, and Claire straddled his lower back, placing her hands on his shoulders to begin the massage. "You're so tense," she murmured. "When was the last time you got a massage?" 5 years ago, he replied. She paused. 5 years? That long? "Yes, you were the last one to touch my back like this," he said quietly. "I only want your massages." Claire had no reply to that. Her cheeks burned, but she continued working on his shoulders and back. "How do you feel now? Did the pain lessen?" she asked after a while. When he didn't answer, Claire leaned closer to check his face and realized he had fallen asleep. She smiled softly and continued to look at him. Her hand moved on its own, brushing his bangs aside so she could see his forehead, where he still had a faint scar from when they were in college. He'd crashed into a sharp edge of a wall back then, and it had left a mark. She hadn't noticed how long she'd been staring at him, or how her fingers were gently caressing his face. Richard still had the same effect on her. No matter how much time had passed, he was still the reason her heart raced. She didn't know what possessed her, but she suddenly leaned down and kissed his cheek. Realizing what she had done, she quickly pulled away and hurried out of his room. What she didn't know was that as soon as she left, Richard slowly opened his eyes and smiled. "How I missed those lips of yours, my love," he whispered, touching the spot where she had kissed him. As the days went by, they created more happy memories as a family. Richard made sure to set aside time every day to play with the twins and take them out whenever possible. They wanted Storm to see the world, to experience more than just the four walls of his hospital room or bedroom. "I know you never wanted to hear my side of what happened with Sarah," Richard told Claire one day, his eyes full of emotion. "But I still want to tell you the truth. I don't care if you believe me or not. I just need you to hear me." 5 years had passed, and this was the first time Claire had allowed him to explain. She didn't say anything, but she was ready to listen. "Nothing happened between me and Sarah," Richard began. "I was drunk that night, but I still knew what I was doing. She was the one who forced herself on me, who tried to kiss me. I never touched her. I could never cheat on you. I would never do that. Not to you, not to our family." "Then why did I see you lying next to each other without clothes on?" Claire asked, pain and confusion mixing in her voice. "If nothing really happened, why were you in the same room? In the same bed?" A part of her wanted to believe him, but she still had so many questions. "My friends invited me out that night," Richard said. "Just like I told you. They kept giving me drinks. Looking back, I think they put something in them. I got drunk way too fast." He swallowed hard. "What I didn't know was that Sarah was there too. My friends never told me she'd be around. They said it was just a guy's night out," he continued. "According to the club's CCTV footage, when I started blacking out, Sarah took me to a private room. I remember pushing her away. I remember refusing to touch her at all because I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want you to ever think I was cheating. I loved you too much for that. I still do." He closed his eyes for a moment. "I don't remember what happened after that. I woke up in bed with a headache, but I know deep in my heart nothing happened between us." Claire couldn't stop her tears anymore. She knew she had been wrong not to give him a chance to explain back then. Her fears and old trauma had controlled her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I never listened to you, Richard. I'm sorry I chose to stay angry instead of hearing you out." Richard smiled gently and cupped her face. "It's all in the past now, Claire. What matters is you finally know the truth. I never cheated on you because I love you so much. I still do. I've never loved anyone else but you." He looked into her eyes. "I know a lot has changed. I know you stopped loving me after what you thought happened. But remember this. I never stopped loving you." Claire didn't let him finish. Her hands moved on their own. She held his face and pressed her lips to his. Richard kissed her back, pouring all of his longing into that kiss. They let every emotion, hurt, love, longing, flow through that moment. For Claire, feeling Richard's lips on hers again was something she had secretly wished for, and now, after so long, it was finally happening. It felt so good, so right. When they finally pulled away, they rested their foreheads together. "I still love you so much, Richard." "Please forgive me," Claire said. "I'm sorry it took me this long to listen." "I love you too, Claire," he whispered. "After all this time, my love for you has never changed." They kissed again, and that night they became one once more, their bodies and hearts finally colliding again after years of distance. Claire later confronted Sarah and demanded the truth. Eventually, Sarah confessed that nothing had happened between her and Richard that night. She admitted that it had all been part of her plan because she'd been in love with Richard for a long time. She said she had intended to tell Claire the truth because she felt guilty for destroying their family, but she had been too afraid of the consequences. "I'm so sorry, Claire," Sarah cried, kneeling in front of her. "Please forgive me." "No, Sarah," Claire replied firmly, anger in her voice. "I don't think I can ever forgive you. My husband and I were separated for years because of you. You destroyed my family. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything. Just please forgive me," Sarah begged. "I trusted you completely," Claire said. "I treated you like a sister. I never imagined you would do something like this to me. I can't give you the forgiveness you're asking for. It's better if we think we never knew each other, that we were never friends at all. I'll forget I ever called a snake like you, my friend." With that, Claire turned her back and walked away, ignoring Sarah's sobs and pleas. Sarah had so many chances over the years to tell her the truth, but she chose to stay silent. For Claire, that alone was unforgivable. Instead of dwelling on it, Claire decided to focus on her family, especially her children. What mattered most was that the truth had finally come out, and she and Richard had truly reconciled. This time, there were no lies, no pretending. It wasn't long before Storm had to be confined in the hospital again so the doctors could monitor his condition. Claire and Richard had both hoped that he wouldn't have to return, that maybe their son had finally recovered. But fate had other plans. "Everything will be okay, Storm. You can do this. I'm right here," Thunder repeated over and over, crying as he held his twin, who was screaming and sobbing in pain. "Baby," Claire cried too. She didn't know what to do to ease even a little of Storm's suffering. The medicines the doctor had given him didn't seem to be working. They had no idea how to comfort him. Watching their child in such agony shattered their hearts. "Thunder, Thunder," Storm sobbed, hugging his twin tightly. "My head hurts so much. It hurts so bad. I can't take it anymore." "You can do it, Storm. The pain will go away later because you already took your medicine," Thunder said, trying to sound brave. "Your brother's right," Richard added. "The pain will stop soon. Mommy and Daddy are right here with you." Thankfully, after some time, Storm's pain subsided and he fell asleep. Thunder, exhausted from crying, eventually fell asleep beside him. "Is there really no other medicine to lessen his pain?" Richard asked Storm's doctor. "That's the strongest medication I can safely give your son," the doctor explained. "If I increase the dosage, his body might not handle it, especially with all the other medicines he's already taking." "I don't know how else we can help our son," Claire sobbed later, clinging to Richard. I can't stand seeing him suffer like that, and there's nothing I can do." Richard wrapped his arms around her as she buried her face in his chest and cried harder. "I don't know what to do either," he said hoarsely. "I want to help him too, but just like you, I'm helpless. I've taken him to the best doctors in the country, but none of them can cure him. They say surgery is too dangerous now. All we can really do is pray for a miracle. Pray that God will have mercy and heal him." They prayed without ceasing, day and night. They prayed that Storm would someday be free from needles and medicines, that Thunder would someday breathe easily without his heart failing him. They prayed for strength, for guidance, for healing. The next day, they were grateful to see that Storm wasn't attacked by pain as badly. His strength was slowly returning, and he was even able to play with Thunder again. "I love seeing them like this," Claire said, sitting beside Richard on the long sofa in Storm's hospital room, as they watched the twins play with a new toy Richard had bought them. The boys laughed and chatted on the hospital bed. "I hope they can always be like this," she added. "I hope their illnesses never come back." She felt Richard's gaze on her. He reached for her hand and intertwined his fingers with hers. "Our kids are strong," he said. "They'll overcome everything they're going through. Someday all our wishes will come true, and they'll both be healthy." Claire smiled faintly. "I hope so. I hope God hears our prayers." All she wanted was to see her children happy and free from pain. She didn't want to see them suffering ever again. She wanted to see their smiles every day. "Mommy, when I'm all better, Thunder and I will go to school together," Storm said a little later, beaming. "So our tutor won't have to keep coming here all the time." Claire smiled at him. "Of course, that's why you both need to keep getting stronger and healthier." "Yes, Mommy," Thunder chimed in. "We want to play with other kids at school like the other children who aren't sick." His happy expression slowly faded into sadness. Claire could tell the twins were jealous of other kids who could freely run around outside and attend school. "Storm and I promised each other we'll get better together," Thunder continued. "We'll go to school at the same time. I'll copy his English and he'll copy my math homework. I'm really good at math. And I'll draw things for him whenever the teacher asks us to draw," Storm added excitedly. Their promise to each other gave Claire strength. Their faith and hope were contagious. She knew if Richard had been there to hear them, he would have been overjoyed. Once he came back from work later that day, she planned to tell him everything they'd said. The conversation about their dreams of going to school together soon dissolved into more playing and laughter. The room echoed with their joy, until Thunder suddenly collapsed. Storm's laughter turned into a loud cry. "Mommy, what's happening to Thunder?" he sobbed. "Is he okay?" "Shh. It's going to be okay," Claire said, her own heart pounding in fear. "Thunder will be fine. Don't cry, sweetheart. You'll get sick too if you panic." She was terrified. She didn't know what had happened to Thunder, but she tried to be strong in front of Storm. She knew that if he saw her break down, it might make things worse for both of them. "Claire, what happened?" Richard demanded as he rushed into the room, his steps quick and heavy. "What happened to Thunder? Where is he?" "He fainted," Claire managed to say, fear in her eyes. "What?" Seeing the terror on his wife and son's faces, Richard hugged them tightly. He was just as scared, his chest tight with anxiety. But he knew he couldn't fall apart. He had to be strong. "Doctor, how is our son?" they asked anxiously later. "For now, he's safe," the doctor said. "His heart is stable again, but we don't know how long it will stay that way, or when another episode might occur." They both breathed a little easier, knowing he was out of immediate danger. "Have you found a heart donor that matches him yet?" the doctor asked. "Not yet," Richard answered. "We almost had one, but the parents backed out because the doctor said there was still a chance their child might wake up from the coma." "We need to find a donor as soon as possible," the doctor urged. "If he has another episode, he might not survive it." They'd already tried everything. Richard had used all his connections, but every potential heart either didn't match or the donors' families changed their minds. Still, they refused to give up. They would do anything to save Thunder. "Daddy, is Thunder awake yet?" Storm asked sadly. "Not yet, son," Richard replied. "Maybe later tonight. Why don't you go rest for now so when you wake up, he'll be awake and you can see him?" "But I want to be beside him when he wakes up," Storm whispered. "You know him, right? He wants me to sleep and rest at the right time, so I'll get strong faster. Because of that, Storm agreed to sleep, not wanting Thunder to scold him later for staying up too late. While Storm slept, they waited for Thunder to wake up. It was the early hours of the morning when he finally opened his eyes. The first thing he asked about was his twin. "Storm's sleeping," Richard told him. "He can come see you tomorrow." "Was he crying because of what happened to me, Daddy?" "Was he scared?" Thunder asked nervously. "Yes," Richard answered honestly, "but he stopped crying because he knows you're strong and you don't want him to be sad." Thunder smiled faintly. "Good, I don't want him to worry." "You have to get strong, okay?" Claire told him. "So tomorrow you can play with your brother again." "Yes, Mommy," Thunder replied. "I'm actually feeling sleepy again. Can I sleep now so I can wake up early and play with Storm?" "Of course, sweetheart," Claire said. "Rest. Mommy and Daddy are right here." One thing they were truly grateful for was their children's courage, their unwavering belief that they would both get better someday. That night, Claire and Richard stayed by their children's bedsides. They ignored their own exhaustion and sleepiness, watching carefully to make sure nothing disturbed their kids' rest. "Thunder, are you okay now?" Storm asked quietly the next day when he finally got permission to visit his brother's room. Thunder still looked a little weak. "Yes, I'm okay now," Thunder said with a smile. "But you fainted yesterday," Storm said, worry in his eyes. "Are you sure you're really fine? Are you having a hard time breathing?" "It was just because I got tired," Thunder answered. "Don't worry, I'm fine now. We can play again." Even though Claire and Richard knew their son was still fragile, Thunder tried his best to appear strong in front of Storm so his brother wouldn't worry. "I was so scared," Storm admitted. "I thought something bad had happened to you." "Nothing bad is going to happen to me, Storm," Thunder said. "I'm not going to leave you. We're going to get better together. So don't cry, okay?" "I'm sorry, Thunder, I just panicked," Storm sniffled. "You didn't do anything wrong," Thunder said. "It's not your fault. Sometimes I just pass out when I get too excited. That's normal for me." Claire and Richard watched from the doorway, tears in their eyes, as they listened to their children's conversation. Claire felt something twisting painfully in her chest, making it hard to breathe. Richard wrapped his arms around her, and she buried her face in his chest, not wanting the twins to see her cry. "We're so lucky to have them, aren't we?" Richard said later as they sat in the hospital garden while the twins slept. "They're the reason we found our way back to each other, even while they're the ones who are sick and weak." "Yes," Claire agreed, looking up at the star-filled night sky. "Despite everything the world has thrown at them, they're such blessings. They're kind, smart, loving, and thoughtful. They only ever think about each other's well-being. They're gifts straight from heaven," Richard said softly. "They've made us realize so many things. They're so strong and so lovable. Honestly, I don't know what I did wrong for them to suffer this much." Things only got harder in the days that followed. But even as everything worsened, they endured and kept praying for strength. "Mommy, Daddy, I still want to stay with you for a long time," Storm whispered one day, his voice barely audible. "But the pain gets worse every day." His words made their tears overflow. "Don't say that, sweetheart," Claire choked out. "You're going to get better. You and Thunder will still play together." "Thank you for everything, Mommy, Daddy," Storm said weakly. "I'm happy our family became whole again. Thank you for granting Thunder's and my wish for you to get back together." Claire burst into sobs and clung to Richard, who was also crying. "I love you so much, Mommy and Daddy." "And I love Thunder so much too," Storm said, tears rolling down his cheeks. His eyes were full of pain and sadness. "But if I ever leave this world, I have another wish," he whispered. "Can I make one more wish, aside from you two staying together?" "Don't talk like that," Richard said, his voice breaking. "What is it?" "If I die, can you give my heart to my brother?" Storm asked. Claire frowned, stunned. "Please, give it to Thunder. I want him to live longer. I want him to be with you. I know he can do so many things if he gets a new heart. I want all of that to come true. If you can't find a donor for him, let it be me. Give him my heart even if I'm gone. At least that way he'll still feel my love." It was clear to them that their son was losing hope. But even so, Claire and Richard stayed strong. They prayed harder and did everything they could to fight for him. "We're running several tests to make sure it will be safe for Thunder to receive a donated heart," one of the specialists later explained to them. We especially have to make sure the donor's cancer or other illnesses won't spread to him. That's the risk we want to avoid. But don't worry, we'll only go ahead if we're certain it's safe. Claire and Richard had sought out some of the best doctors they could find, desperate to save their son. They didn't care how much money it cost. All that mattered was Thunder's life. After some time, Storm's condition began to improve little by little. He wasn't fully healed, but he was no longer as weak as before. He was gaining strength, and they continued to fight for him with everything they had. Now it was Thunder's turn. After several days, the results came in. They had finally found a heart that matched Thunder's, a heart donated by a young child who had passed away. The transplant could proceed. "Don't worry, Thunder," Richard told him before the operation. "Everything will be okay. When you receive this new heart, just remember that someday you and Storm will run and play like normal kids." Claire and Richard couldn't control their anxiety as they watched their twins being prepped, but they were also deeply grateful that little by little things were starting to get better. One night, Thunder couldn't stop crying as he hugged Storm tightly. So much had happened, miracles that had changed their lives forever. Their wish for their parents to reconcile had come true. Their health was slowly improving. Soon they would be able to do the things other kids did. Thunder's heart transplant was a success. 5 months later, he was much stronger. He never forgot the child who had given him a second chance at life. "I promise I'll take care of your heart," Thunder said quietly one day, standing at the grave of the child who had donated their heart. "I'll fill it with love and happy memories." He pressed a hand to his chest. "I promise I'll take care of myself so I won't get sick again. I'll also take care of my twin and my mommy and daddy. We'll visit you often. Thank you so much. I'll never forget that you gave me your heart." Richard and Claire hugged their children tightly, and just then a strong breeze blew through the trees in front of their home. Birds chirped from the branches, and for a moment they all felt a quiet peace. It's hard for a family to lose someone, but when one life is taken, another is often given hope. That's how life works. Some say it's even harder for parents to lose a child than for a child to lose a parent. It's painful, unbearably painful, but sometimes we have to accept that people leave our lives. Even though they were saddened by the donor child's passing, Claire and Richard chose to comfort themselves with the thought that their loss had given Thunder a chance to live. Now they could finally sleep a little more peacefully, knowing their children's illnesses were no longer haunting every moment. What mattered was that they were together, whole and complete. They believed that everything happens for a reason. A year passed, and the twins continued healing. Their sickness never returned. Their joy at having a complete and loving family helped them recover even more. The kids saw their parents' love firsthand, how Richard and Claire cared for each other and sacrificed for their family in ways they hadn't before. They had become stronger. One day, while Claire was at work, she got a sudden call from one of their house staff. "Mom, there's an emergency here at home. Please come right away," the nanny said, her voice shaking with tears. "What emergency? How are the twins?" Claire asked in a panic. She feared the worst, that after all these months, one of the kids might have suffered another episode. She quickly asked permission to leave her office and rushed to the car without even waiting for a full explanation. The nanny kept crying on the phone and never clearly explained what was happening. When Claire got home, the house was dark. She didn't understand what was going on. Suddenly, a spotlight turned on and focused on a man standing with his back to her. Claire had a feeling she knew what this was about, but she wasn't entirely sure. The man turned around. It was Richard. He was holding a bouquet of flowers and a small red velvet box. Claire's eyes filled with tears as she walked toward him. The spotlight followed them as they moved through the dimly lit room. "What is this?" she asked. Richard knelt down in front of her. "Claire," he began softly, "I waited before doing this because I wanted the timing to be right. I've wanted to do this for a long time." "I want us to get married again," he said. "I know we had a terrible misunderstanding before. Because of that, my life almost fell apart without you. I didn't know what to do without you in my life. But I thank God every day that we found our way back to each other because of our children. Maybe we were given that trial to strengthen us," he continued, "to make our love even stronger. Now, things are better. Our twins are almost completely healthy. We're okay again. I've tried my best to make it up to you. Have I made up for my mistakes? Claire laughed softly through her tears. Yes, you have. Richard smiled and went on. I want to ask for your hand again. I want us to start over as husband and wife. I'm sorry, he added, his voice rough. I know I made mistakes. I should never have let anyone set me up like that. I knew about your trauma and your past, and I should have fought harder to explain everything to you. I didn't, but thank you for giving me a second chance. I love you so much, Claire, he said. So, will you marry me? For the second time. Claire laughed again and cried even harder, tears of pure joy. She helped him stand up, then wiped away the tears that had started to fall from his eyes too. Of course I'll marry you, she said. Now is the perfect time. She looked toward their twins, who were watching from nearby. Both kids gave them a thumbs up. I love you so much, she told him. And I love you both, she added to Storm and Thunder. I can't wait for us to get married again. Richard slipped her old wedding ring back onto her finger, the same one she had returned to him the day they separated. I remember this ring, she said, chuckling. You know, I used to think about pawning it. They both burst into laughter. Then Richard pulled her close and kissed her. I love you so much, he whispered. Yay, it's really a happily ever after, Storm and Thunder shouted excitedly. 4 months later, they were married again. Their second wedding was simple, unlike the grand first one, but it was more meaningful. Only close friends and relatives were present. A few months after the wedding, Claire became pregnant again. Mommy's pregnant. We're going to have a new sibling, Thunder told Storm one day, jumping up and down. I'm so happy, Storm. We're going to have a baby sister, or baby brother, or maybe twins again, or even triplets. The names we thought of earlier were so nice, Storm replied, just as excited. We promised we'd take care of our little brother or sister and love them twice as much so they can really feel our love. Richard and Claire smiled as they listened to their kids. Oh, so you two are assuming it'll be twins again? Claire teased. Yes, Mommy, Thunder said. You said twins run in your family, so it's not impossible, right? They were overjoyed when they found out Claire was indeed expecting twins again, a boy and a girl this time. Love manifests in different forms, and Storm's love for his twin brother had been one of the purest of all. He had once been ready to give his own heart just to save Thunder. But God didn't allow that to happen, because he had other plans for their lives. For that, they were endlessly grateful. Mommy, Daddy, thank you for everything, Thunder and Storm said one day, hugging their parents tightly. Thank you for loving us and taking care of us. We promise we'll be good big brothers and big sister. We'll do everything we can for our little siblings. We love you so much, Daddy, they added, their voices full of emotion. We love you both too, Claire said, pulling them into a big family hug. I love you all, Richard said, kissing the heads of Thunder, Storm, and their 2 new baby twins. And I love you, Claire. Thank you for loving me and for giving me a second chance. I love you too, Richard, she replied. In life, trials never really disappear. Just when we think everything is finally okay, something unexpected can happen. Challenges and problems are part of our journey. Sometimes we question why, out of all the people in the world, the hardships seem to fall on us. But we must always remember, God never gives us trials we cannot handle. God didn't give us the storms of life unprepared. These challenges shape us, make us stronger, and build our character. After every storm, a rainbow appears, a reminder that pain doesn't last forever. This story shows that no matter how heavy our burdens are, as long as we trust and believe that God has a plan, everything will work out in His time. As they say, everything happens for a reason. And so the love story of Richard and Claire comes to a close for now, together with the love of their twins, Storm and Thunder. Thank you for listening. It's your friend, Uncle Joel. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic tales and adventures.